Right. It says meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
Yes.
All right. I think we are live. Good night, everybody. I would love to just take a minute and let everybody join us before we get started. I am super excited tonight to be talking about mom self-care as people start to log in. It's a crazy time here during COVID, and there's a lot to talk about. So I'll just give it one more minute and then I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest for the evening. All right. Thank you so much, everybody that's just tuning in. We're about to get started here on the Boppy page to talk about Mom Self-Care 101. It is 5 o'clock Pacific. It's the end of the workday here, and it is 8 o'clock where my guest Simone is in New York, so it's late. Uh-oh. Lindsay says she is not seeing Simone. My split screen isn't working. So let's see. Simone, why don't you talk and see if it switches you on?
Hey, everybody. Good night.
Let's see what more. Lindsay's our behind the scenes technical operator, letting me know. I see she's typing. Okay, Simone. See, Simone, I've made you a host. You're a co-host. What happens if I make you a host? Oh, okay. When you talk, you are live. So I think it's just going to ping pong between us.
Okay.
All right. Okay, great. Now that our technical difficulties are resolved, it's 5 o'clock. We're ready to get started. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is Jen Saxton. I'm the founder and CEO of Tot Squad, based in Los Angeles. I'm a mom of a newly turned 2-year-old daughter, and I've got another baby coming in March. And I've been a child safety expert for over a decade through my work with Tot Squad, which is a marketplace that connects new moms to all of the services that they need, including sleep help, lactation support, etc. And we have amazing providers on our platform, like Simone, who's joining us this evening. And we are delighted to be partnering with the Boppy Company as part of their MomKind project. And it is really an amazing initiative that the Boppy Company has taken on to help educate and empower new moms. So we are bringing as much exciting content to you guys because it is a really stressful time during COVID to be pregnant or parenting. And tonight we're going to talk about mom self-care at all different stages, pregnancy through toddler. And I am so excited to have Simone Toomer here from Wise Woman Doula, and she's going to discuss affordable and simple ways that moms can take care of themselves to relieve stress and be more in tune with their bodies, especially right after childbirth. And Simone has absolutely one of the most incredibly impressive resumes that I have ever seen. And you guys can feel free to put questions for her in the chat throughout this broadcast, and we will try to get to as many of them as we can. And so I'm going to let Simone introduce herself, but she is a just total expert in the birthing space. She is a certified birth and postpartum and doula and childbirth educator, a doula educator and mentor, Lamaze certified childbirth educator, certified lactation counselor, La Leche League leader, and an infant sleep educator. Wow. Simone, welcome. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Amongst all of those titles, I'm also a mom of 2. I have a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. And that's really what brought me to this journey to, educate new parents, expecting parents. And I'm really excited to be on tonight.
Absolutely. You have spent a lot of time in this industry, and I think beyond your expertise as a mom, have a lot of amazing experiences working with other new and expecting families. So let's dive into self-care for moms and moms to be. What are some ways for pregnant women like me to reduce our stress as we're heading into our second and third trimesters and starting to prepare for delivery?
Yeah, so as we're easing into our third trimester, we may start feeling the weight of our bellies. We might get a little sciatic nerve, a little bit more achy. I really like to encourage, body work, maybe seeing a chiropractor and acupuncture wrist. But when we look at affordability, it might just be as simple as like yoga every day, right? And gentle stretches to just move the body, right? We start to see ourselves getting more tired. So really listening to the body. And I encourage that all throughout pregnancy and postpartum, because our body is beautiful and smart and like it communicates to us in so many ways, right? And then also just connecting with our partner and really communicating how we're feeling and the help that we may need.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you're totally right. It's beyond just affordability right now with chiropractors and acupuncturists. Yeah. There's a lot of extra stress being pregnant during COVID. My OBGYN, who I would describe as maybe a bit more permissive in general, not overly strict, she looked me dead in the eye at my last appointment and she said, "Do not get COVID." Scared the living daylights out of me. So I feel like any extra visits to healthcare providers is really stressful, but I will totally admit that I did splurge. My low back was killing me and I hired a massage therapist to come into my home and we set her up outside on the patio, wore our masks, like did the whole thing, but I was like, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, that sounds beautiful. That actually sounds really nice. Safe, social distance, and still like, working things out.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was the first day of the like really bad fires here in California, so the air quality was bad, but I was like, but we've got masks on. I'm like, I just got to get this massage. I can't cancel. I'm working through it. And then there's also some amazing online workout programs now for new moms. I think there's just so many options for free and low cost online programs for prenatal yoga and everything. So I think that there are so many affordable options if you can't afford to go for in-person care, or you're feeling nervous about it if your doctor is like mine and scared the living daylights.
Yeah, so many things are virtual now. You could, invite a girlfriend, do things together virtually, and it's really exciting to have all of those things in your home and accessible.
Totally. That's a great tip because I'm such an extrovert that I feel like for me, I did a lot of the Fit for Baby, stroller strides type of prenatal workouts with my first pregnancy, but I just love the social aspect of being able to go and be around other women. And so like doing it alone in my bedroom is not as exciting. So I love the idea of being able to get a buddy to kind of hold you accountable for some of that prenatal work. So, but with the changing rules around who can be in the delivery room with you, I know that so many expecting mamas are so stressed about trying to figure out their birth plan. Maybe there's the plan A and plan B and plan C and D to just reduce the potential stress going into delivery as well. Do you have any tips or experience of what it's like? I know you've done some virtual doula work even in the last few months for families that couldn't bring an extra support person.
Yeah, so in New York, doulas were actually deemed essential. So I really encourage that all expecting families call your hospitals. It varies state by state what's going on in regards to how many people are allowed in the room, partner and doula. So definitely call, find out what the rules are. I feel like every day it's something new, not everybody's on the same page. So, I think it's really important to find out ahead of time, be ready to advocate for yourself, and kind of just having an idea also, of course, helps to relieve stress where like, okay, this is what I was told, let me come prepared. And that plan B may, you might bring a printed document birth plan with you just in case things don't go according to plan. And then also, of course, your partner and whoever else that you might be communicating with during your birth, making sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. So crucial, especially because I think COVID is surging again right now. Like things are just changing day to day. So I think it'll reduce your stress if you really plan for several different scenarios in case things do change again. So once you're ready to leave the hospital and come home with the new baby, I know another thing that's really stressing a lot of us out is the idea that it's not safe for grandparents, for our parents to travel across the country for their own health and for our health and for the new baby's health. It's like there's a lot of risk with introducing a new person in terms of support after you come home. Do you have thoughts about self-care and stress reduction in those early postpartum days of the newborn?
Yeah, it's really hard not having family nearby or not being sure about everyone's status. I do know some people who decide to personally get COVID tests before that grand baby is coming home. That might really be some questioning, right? There's the option also of like postpartum doulas, and they usually offer daytime support or nighttime support. But the main thing is really, once again, listening to your body, maybe talking ahead of time what you might expect you need help with, but to a certain degree, it also is like impossible to expect what's going to happen, right? So some easy ways to kind of relieve some stress might be meal planning. Whoever is coming over, if you feel comfortable, is bringing meals, dividing different, responsibilities like laundry, walking the dog, making sure that you're really tapping into what you need. And you and the baby, you're kind of just like snuggling up for the first couple of weeks, nursing and just learning each other. So being prepared for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that one of my biggest regrets with my first pregnancy was that I did have family come and help out a lot for the first 6 weeks, but grandparents aren't staying up in the middle of the night. Like I really need that support from like 3 to 7 a.m. So this time I am planning to work with a postpartum doula, and she is testing for COVID once a week and taking so many precautions, really only working with one family at a time. So I think it's really up to every new mom to try and figure out what their comfort level is in terms of that. I also think it's a little bit easier with a second baby to like save your budget for that postpartum support, because you aren't having to necessarily buy all of the new products and everything. You can reuse from the first baby and then save those funds for some more support and help.
Yeah, definitely. You don't know until the sleep exhaustion hits you. And I always joke, I say at 2 o'clock in the morning, you don't want to be Googling, lactation or postpartum doula or something like that. So even if you don't need it, it's always nice to have like this anticipated list ahead of time.
Oh my gosh, for sure. And I think, these are some great tips. It's just so crucial to try and find some time for yourself in those first few weeks. And if you can't afford or you don't have time to like go research all of that expert support, at Tot Squad, we're now offering 20 and 30-minute consults for really affordable price points to work with providers. And then there are some amazing products out there as well. I was a huge fan of the Boppy newborn lounger, which I could take it from my bedroom to the living room to put it on the couch, and like wherever we were going in the house, the baby could just be right there for us. Without having, if you're trying to transport a bassinet or some giant piece of furniture for the baby to take a nap in, for supervised napping, it was a huge lifesaver for me to have a little bit more freedom around the house, and to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I think the hardest thing in those beginning days and sometimes weeks is like, how do I take a shower, right? That baby wants to be on you quite often between feeding and sleeping. So yeah, it's really, really important that you are, you communicate to your partner perhaps that, you need a break, you need 10 minutes maybe to bathe, you need to go for a walk, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had to have a C-section with my first, and so I wasn't doing a whole lot of walking, but
yeah. Are you going for a VBAC this time?
Oh my gosh, it's still up in the air, but
yeah.
We're gonna see what happens.
Well, you know what to expect a little bit, right? So you know how to prepare.
Exactly. I'm sure it's gonna be a crazy adventure delivering during COVID, but luckily there's so many moms that have done it ahead of me, so I'm feeling a little bit less stressed. Another thing that really stressed me out during those first couple of months at home was breastfeeding, and just trying to like survive the fact that the baby wanted to eat every 2 to 3 hours. And I noticed for me that we ended up introducing a bottle at about 7 days old. I think that was earlier than was recommended, but it gave me the first stretch of 4 hours of consecutive sleep that I had in those 7 days. I was like a new person. I was like, who knew what a difference 4 hours of straight sleep can make after a week with only 2 to 3 hours at a time. And I remember pumping and thinking like I think the baby has to eat about an ounce an hour, right? And it was like, every ounce that I pump is an ounce of freedom. Like I can sleep. If sleep is my definition of freedom, and as the baby got bigger, I can like go somewhere, I could get a mani-pedi, I could do something with that time. What other stresses and situations are happening around breastfeeding, and how can you maintain self-care for moms during that period?
So I think you made a very important point about introducing a bottle before like that recommended time. I think that's reality. And it's not a failure, it's not, and your baby probably went right back to the breast with no issue, right? And so I think education is really key. as hard as it is to sleep when the baby sleeps, I really encourage it. If you can take one nap a day, that would be great. Or maybe your partner or someone else going for a walk with the baby. I know it's hard right now because of COVID, so maybe they go in the backyard or, stay close to home. So you rest and you get some alone time. But every day your body's going to change. Every day you're going to be feeling different. And so it's also important to just like tune into how you're feeling. You might need to hydrate more. Well, you definitely need to hydrate more, but your body's going to also tell you this, right? Eating more, sleeping more, hydrating more. And because you're nourishing another human being, I always say breastfeeding hunger is worse than pregnancy hunger, right? So also being prepared for that. What does self-care look like? When you're like ravenous at like 2 a.m., right? So I encourage those snack stations around the house, wherever you're going to be.
That is a good point. You got to like stock those snack stations with like the things that bring you joy. And I mean, maybe every once in a while that's like a Snickers or like, I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, don't feel like you have to only have the like healthy stuff. Like, treat yourself, mama.
Yeah, so I talk about like trail mix, yogurt, fruits, granola bars, that Snickers that might just be like,
That's a splurge, right? Once every while.
But that's the reality, and that's what it's, when you're, I feel like postpartum is a mix of high and lows. So you're gonna need different things to really help sustain you mentally, emotionally, and physically and spiritually.
Absolutely. And I think that another thing that really made a difference for me in those early days was learning how to baby wear and being able to like move around the house hands free without having to have the baby cry because she wasn't on top of me. Boppy actually has an amazing baby carrier called the Comfy Chic baby carrier. And I think baby wearing can make such a big difference for moms. I remember the first time I figured out how to like load the dishwasher while holding the baby. And I was like, this is amazing. I can like be productive. I'm not trapped with a sleeping baby on me, like on the couch doing nothing all day long.
Yeah, I totally agree. I 100% always talk about baby wearing. It allows you to be hands-free, right? You have skin to skin with the baby. When you're like a pro, you even can nurse in the carrier, right? And that changes your life too. Here in New York, you're taking the trains and the buses everywhere, and it's hard to even like move with a stroller, with the newborn. So just having baby close and in a nice cuddly carrier is really, really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And baby wearing was just such a game changer for us to be able to like be out and about, walk around the park, all of those things. I only nursed in the carrier a handful of times, but I did try. So what other ways, like I know for me, I couldn't like relax by taking a bath for several weeks after my C-section. But I've definitely been taking a lot of hot baths during my pregnancy to help with my low back pain. But like, what are other ways that new moms can start to kind of try to like reconnect with themselves and keep that mental health strong in those early days? Because I know there's just so many pressures, especially when you're a first-time mom, of just trying to figure out like, is it okay to introduce formula? Yes, it is. Right? You're so stressed about every single decision that's going on. And like, what are some of those other ways that you can relax?
I think some like a simple way is like affirmations, right? Every day you're taking it one day at a time and you are going to get through it, right? Going back to a friend, maybe you have a friend that just had a baby, around the same age, close together, a few months ahead, and they could be like that reassuring person for you, right? To just normalize the whole process. And that's really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just thinking about the breastfeeding in the carrier. Another thing that was a huge game changer was when I finally learned how to breastfeed lying down so that I could actually like relax in my bed and like half pretend to sleep while I was still nursing the baby. And I think, the first couple weeks you're like really focused on the latch and just like making sure that the baby is gaining weight and doing all of those things. And then after you start to settle into your routine, you can start experimenting and trying new positions so you can like get more relaxing. Are there any other things that you recommend around that?
Sorry, it's bedtime here, so my 2-year-old is definitely trying to like join in on the video, unfortunately. But breastfeeding education prenatally is a big component to breastfeeding success, right? And I think it's really important to be able to normalize what those struggles are. Sometimes it is easy peasy and sometimes it's not. I have two, and my second was actually much, much harder than my first. And as a, professional, I was like really anxious and really sad about like, oh my gosh, we're doing a bottle and it's day 4, and that's okay because he's healthy, he's happy. And because of that, I'm actually healthy and happy, right?
Exactly.
So just normalizing what that looks like and taking it day to day is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think especially when it comes to breastfeeding, there are so many studies about postpartum depression and anxiety. And I think that breastfeeding is a key driver of that for a lot of women that are so stressed about like getting it right and hitting this, vision that they have of what the ideal or the perfect mom is. And you know what? There is like no such thing as that. If you got to give that baby a passy, so because you can't like listen to another 10 minutes of crying, like give the passy, right? Like you can't be the best possible mom. You can't have a healthy and safe child if you're not doing okay with your own mental health. I don't know if you have experience working with other moms that have experienced postpartum anxiety and depression. I know there's a lot of resources out there, right, Simone?
Yeah, I have actually worked with moms firsthand who are having postpartum, like it's PMADs, right? So depression and anxiety actually sometimes shows up more than depression does. So I'm really big on support groups, which is once again COVID, like we can't do that much anymore. But I'm
We're all
also
virtual.
connecting new parents to support groups, mental health professionals, and community.
Absolutely. And I think there's some groups like Postpartum Support International that have resources and lists of therapists and experts who are clinically trained. And I know that, a lot of people complain about our healthcare system in America and not supporting moms enough. The fact that our first postpartum visit with our OBGYN isn't until 6 weeks after. And then they're giving you that postpartum anxiety and depression quiz. And it's kind of like, it's been 6 weeks. That's a lifetime in newborn world. So I absolutely encourage any mamas who are tuning in tonight that if you start to feel like you're really suffering from anxiety or you're just really down, like your hormones are going crazy, like it is a stressful time, and please seek out the support that you need if you find yourself in that position.
Yeah, I think that's really important. With a baby, we're at the pediatrician like week 2, 1 week, 2 weeks, like, so many times in the beginning. And so much for us after we give birth happens in the first 6 weeks physically and, mentally. So it's really important to have some like a resource, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the next big milestones that new moms hit is the return to work. And there is a crazy crisis happening in this country right now with COVID, probably happening worldwide. But I was just reading about it. They're calling it the first women's recession, and how many women are having to leave their jobs to juggle childcare. And it's just really so challenging what the globe is going through right now with the pressures that new moms are facing, trying to juggle work and childcare. And I was really lucky as the owner of my own company that I had an infants at work policy put in place. So I was actually able to bring my daughter with me to the office from 3 to 6 months old while she was nursing. I mean, they're mostly sleeping for that age range anyway. Once they start crawling, it's a different ball game. You don't want your baby at work necessarily. But sometimes your work is at home. Do you have any tips for new moms that are kind of navigating that period of deciding whether they want to return to work, of how to return to work successfully, whether you're working from home or going back into an office?
Yeah, I think when it comes to like breastfeeding, your body, it takes definitely more than 6 weeks to recover from birth, right? And so once again, listening to your body, talking to your HR, to your, about what does maternity leave look like? What accessibility does your job provide for pumping rooms, right? Like no one can deny you the right to pump, right? And so I think for moms that are breastfeeding, at least a lot of their concerns are, oh my gosh, like my milk supply, right? And for moms who are not breastfeeding, just being away from your baby, right? For a long amount of time back to back. So it's really important to think about the policies that are in place by your job and what that transition is going to look like for you mentally and emotionally, hormonally too, because when you're away from your baby, that triggers certain things differently as well.
Absolutely. I feel like people don't talk enough about postpartum depression that's actually associated with weaning. I breastfed my daughter for 16 months, but I, in hindsight, realized that I had had some hormonal drops when I had stopped breastfeeding. So I think you really have to pay attention to those cues and your body as you're going through that experience. But I totally agree with you in terms of advocacy at work. While you're still pregnant, if you can, work with your company to design the return to work plan that you think is going to work best for you. Make sure you know where the pumping room is. That's going to alleviate a lot of the anxiety or what your plan is. I actually was lucky. A friend gave me her extra breast pump that she didn't need anymore. And I sanitized everything, and then I just kept it at the office. So that way I always had one. I didn't have to haul as much stuff back and forth between home and work to be able to have that. And it's, I think, a game changer because there's so many parts. Like cleaning those pumps can be so crazy.
Oh yeah.
You went on mute, Simone.
Sorry guys. Now insurance actually covers pumps, right? So also when you're expecting, call your providers, and ask them what pumps can they cover.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually believe Walmart.com just started a free breast pump program now where you can put in your health insurance information and they order the breast pump and ship it to you straight from Walmart, which is super easy.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So then the next big milestone is when you've got a mobile baby, right? They start crawling, they start walking, they start getting into everything. And I feel like I almost experienced a feeling of claustrophobia. Like I can't turn my eyes away from the baby for any moment because she could be into something, which is different than those early days when at least they'll like sleep for long stretches and you hear them cry when they wake up. All of a sudden, those days with the slightly bigger kids can be really stressful. So I know trying to think about childcare decisions and working with your partner, like what tips do you have around that?
I find like a jumperoo or an exerciser is really nice for that age, right? Tummy time, and then possibly like a gated area, definitely in a safe area so you can put them down. Because honestly, like sometimes you just want them like feeling the floor and learning to crawl and roll. And so you feel confident that, okay, they're not going to roll off the bed or they're not going to, get into anything, which definitely once they start moving and grooving, that's like a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So
we started with like a pack and play that was full of toys. And then we got like the baby gates area where we had like a whole bigger area where she could run around in, different things. But I think for us, really, we had to figure out the communication as spouses. And I know for you single parents out there, it's like even more challenging to get a break. But as spouses, sometimes it's like, can you please just take all responsibility for this child for the next 2 hours? Like I really need a mental break. And I think that when people talk about self-care, sometimes like you get this impression that it has to be meditation and spa and pampering. And I am here in full support of like watching bad reality TV. If that is your definition of self-care, is like checking out to watch something your husband would never watch with you or your partner, then figure out kind of what that thing is that gives you joy, and then work with your partner to make sure you have those times to give yourself a break.
Yeah, like with my first, I remember the minute my husband would walk through the door, I would like be ready to go. Like, yeah.
Like I'm out.
The neighborhood, I'm totally fine. And it's funny, trash TV, I guess. Netflix actually has a funny show, Working Moms.
Yeah, oh, it's so good. It's so good.
And it's like, oh, yes,
I love it. I love it. So I think, another thing we didn't really talk that much about yet is meal prep. And I was in full support of my sister organized a meal train for me when I first came home from the hospital. But then eventually it's like, oh my gosh, especially when you're working, you're coming home, you're trying to like deal with the baby, like doing that once a week meal prep. We subscribe to one of those meal delivery services where we would at least just have all the ingredients for a wholesome home cooked meal ready to go in the fridge. Can really take a lot of the stress out of the cooking at home. And that made a big difference for us. What about once your kids are a little bit older, how can you start to keep them busy, helping out around the house, or what tips do you have for those bigger kids?
Well, I think, going back to meal prep, I think what's fun to know is like, as your baby hits like 6 months and you're ready for solids, they can eat anything that you can eat. So a lot of parents also stress about, oh my gosh, what am I going to feed my baby? right? And then if for older siblings, they definitely can help with diaper changes. I encourage a lot of parents, like if you're in bed and cuddling with the baby, the older sibling, if they could read or go through a book, even if they can't read, right? They could tell you the pictures, right? So you have them next to you in bed. They're really helping maybe pack the diaper bag, and really that also helps them to feel like, hey, I'm being a big brother, I'm being a big sister, and I'm helping mommy and daddy, right? Because a lot of older kids regress a little bit when they have a sibling. So this really helps to alleviate that stress at that time.
Now you just gave me stress about my kid regressing. My girls are going to be 2.5 years apart, and right now she has no idea what's coming for her.
Oh no. Yes,
we still got 5 months or something to figure this out, so we'll figure it out. Well, I know that the holidays are coming up. We're all going to be spending a lot more time indoors. So some luxurious ideas just to think about, to put on your Christmas wish list, or, you know, sneak a little a whisper into your spouse's ear about treating yourself to like warm slippers. I totally confess that I bought myself on Amazon Prime Day yesterday a weighted blanket. I've heard great things. I've never tried one. I didn't open it yet, so stay tuned for my review on the weighted blanket. But any other kind of indulgences that you have on your wish list, Simone, or recommend to your clients?
I'm trying to think, like, especially in the beginning days when you're really just in the house, like a nice cozy robe, you know.
Oh yeah.
Ironically, some nice cotton underwear, because you're gonna be in those for a bit.
I need new underwear when I'm pregnant. I feel like I ordered some maternity underwear and it's not cutting it. I gotta like get the comfy underwear going now.
Yes, yes. So you just really want to be comfortable for those early weeks, you know, a nice maybe button down pajama, because you're like, or, you know, you're probably not wearing a shirt much, but you know, if you do want to, some easy access stuff for sure.
I know, I love it. Those topless days in the early beginning, it's crazy. Just nursing all the time around the clock. I had a great button-down robe that I got from, or a button-down nightgown I got from Nordstrom that I absolutely loved. So that's a great tip. All right, awesome. Well, we are unfortunately out of time for tonight. Simone, this has been absolutely amazing. I love your energy. I love everything that you are doing to help moms in New York and then virtually everywhere else. Thank you so much for contributing your expertise and trying to give moms everywhere a bit more peace of mind.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm passionate about educating during this time, and it's a really crucial time for families. You hear my 2-year-old?
It's okay. We'll let you go get ready for bedtime. All right. Thank you guys all for tuning in. It was so nice to see everybody tonight. Take care. Bye.
Good night.